In the 7th chapter, Amos shares 3 visions, one of locusts, one of fire, and in the shape of judgment in the idea of a plumb line. Here we also see in this chapter an attack on Amos by the religious leaders of the day, the king's own personal priest. The priest knew that Amos had to be silenced. I mean, surely if God had something to say, he would tell the king's own personal chaplaincy. Of course, we must ask ourselves, were the priests of that time worshipping the king of Israel, or were they actually worshipping the king in heaven? You'll have to decide that for yourself. In the 8th chapter, we see God's own view of his chosen people. In verse 4, God describes his own people and says, "Hear this, you who trample the needy and do away with the poor of the land." This is God's view on his own chosen people. Amos makes it quite clear we must never mess with God's principles. Amos knew then, like today, how people felt about worship. Look at verse 5. This is how people felt about worship in Amos' time. "When will the new moon be over, so we may sell grain, and the Sabbath be ended, that we may go to the market and sell wheat, skimping the measures, boosting the price, and cheating with our dishonest scales, buying the poor with silver, and the needy for a pair of sandals, selling even the sweetens from the floor with the wheat." How many times do we come to church in our own time with one eye on the watch, waiting for the service to end so we can get back to what we really want to be doing on God's day? We'll have to ask ourselves that question. When we come to the 9th chapter, it points out that Israel will be destroyed, and it was, when it was taken into exile. But there was some hope, even in this dark period. In chapter 9, verse 9, God says, "For I will give the command, and I will shake the house of Israel amongst the nations, as a grain is shaken in a sieve, and not a pebble will reach the ground." Israel was taken into exile, and there was a sieving process, but a few were spared. And I believe when we come to the New Testament, when we see Mary and Joseph, when we see Zechariah and Mary, when we see Simeon and Anna, we see people who stayed loyal to God and had the blessing to see Jesus with their own eyes. One thing we take away from Amos' teaching is that he taught judgment theology that wasn't welcome in Amos' time and isn't welcome today. But if we're going to unlock the book of Amos and find the truth, we will find what God wants to say to us today.